Guys, thanks for watching part 1. Here's part 2 of my interview with Dave Kranzler. Gold is currency, and no fiat, including the dollar, can match it. The name of Dave's video is Eric Holder's Legacy, The Divine Right of Criminals, and that's going to be part 1 of a 3-part series. Dave, if you had anything else, please do continue, but I do want to give Rory an opportunity to talk about that interesting interview with Eric Dubin about the COMEX. Dave, you were talking about the COMEX in the future will just settle, they'll change the rules and they'll just settle in paper. And I think that the point of the interview with Eric Dubin, Rory, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is this Ponzi scheme could just kill the COMEX, you could just shut the COMEX down altogether.
And Eric goes into some good detail as far as backing it up, which is actually going to come out in part 2, which should be released either later today or tomorrow. He does just a great job of pointing fingers and detailing how the paper Ponzi scheme works and what's going on with it and how it impacts the price. I mean, it's really good. I mean, you really should listen to it, and because Eric does a really great job of detailing everything.
Yeah, I like those guys a lot. And Dave, let's talk a little bit about the COMEX versus the SGE. Can you explain to people the sea change that we're seeing? Can you help listeners? I think most of them do understand, but for those who are new to this information, can you help them understand the sea change that we're seeing? If you can, articulate the difference between the SGE in Asia and the COMEX, the physical world versus the paper world. Because again, quantifiably, we know there's real world demand for physical when the U.S. Mint can't provide any more silver eagles.
Well, as you say, the Shanghai Gold Exchange is what we would call a physical gold exchange. And everything on it is basically controlled and regulated by the Chinese government. But when you trade on the SGE, you're trading in physical bullion, and everything is settled in physical bullion. So if you make a commitment to deliver gold to a buyer, you better have the gold to back it up. And the way the SGE is essentially a clearing exchange for all of the physical gold that gets used by investors, jewelers, whatever, over in China. So in other words, except for the People's Bank of China, the Chinese central bank, anyone who buys gold over in China is buying gold that has passed through the Shanghai Gold Exchange. You see what I'm saying? So when gold bars get imported into China, they get delivered, except for the bars that go to the central bank, it gets delivered to the Shanghai Gold Exchange, and then it gets distributed that way. Mm-hmm. And that's why this guy, Kuz Jansen, has made the argument and has backed it up with excruciating detail that the true annual demand in China for gold, ex the central bank, can be measured by looking at how much gold gets withdrawn from the Shanghai Gold Exchange. Because when gold gets withdrawn from the Shanghai Gold Exchange, it means it's being taken by investors, hoarders, and jewelry producers, essentially.
Right.
Now, the component that we can't measure over in China is how much gold the central bank's accumulating. And I think that's part of the reason why they opened up Beijing and Shanghai as avenues of import for gold, because those numbers don't get reported anywhere. Only the Chinese government knows those numbers. So the World Gold Council doesn't know those numbers. The UBS Metals Group doesn't know those numbers. No one knows those numbers. It's impossible to know exactly how much gold is going into China on any given week. You can only measure what's passing through Hong Kong. And Kuz actually did an article a few weeks ago where he showed that at one point, based on the amount of gold that was being withdrawn from the SGE, the amount of gold going into China through Hong Kong was only 14% of the gold that was actually being taken off the Shanghai Gold Exchange.
Oh, wow.
Now we want to contrast that to the COMEX, which is essentially nothing but a derivatives gold market. Derivatives meaning, it's the what's primarily traded on the COMEX, or what's only traded on the COMEX, are gold and silver futures.
Right, paper.
Paper gold. And there's allegedly gold being kept in vaults by the COMEX vault custodians, which would be HSBC, JP Morgan, Scotia, Brinks.
That's right.
I think there's one other.
The top criminal banks in the world: J.P. Morgan, HSBC. We know the Scotia Makata vaults are empty based on some of the work by Harvey Organ. Yeah, you've just named some of the top criminals. I'm not sure about Brinks, but just to rewind a little bit, I want to back you up on Koos Jansen. As soon as we started talking about inside the Shanghai Gold Exchange vaults, I wanted to bring up this video that we posted at SGT Report, which Koos posted on his YouTube channel. And even though the whole thing is in Chinese, you can't understand a word of it if you don't speak Chinese. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and everybody should watch inside the Shanghai Gold Exchange vaults, and then go try to seek out the same video from the COMEX.
I was just going to say, it's like Fort Knox and the New York Fed gold vaults. Can anyone really tell me how much gold is in there? Has anyone ever seen any of the gold in the COMEX gold vaults? I haven't.
Neither is Germany.
That's what's so yeah, even Germany. Germany wanted to see it, and that was the Fed vaults. And the Fed apparently keeps gold in 9 vaults. They showed German officials gold in 1 vault. But everyone has these arguments or discussions about how much physical gold is sitting in the COMEX vaults. Well, the only information we have about that gold is based on reports that are delivered to the CME by JP Morgan, HSB, and Scotia. So if you want to trust those reports, God bless you. I don't trust them. The other problem with the COMEX, and the reason why it's a futures, basically it's a fractional bullion exchange, is that the amount of open interest, say just in gold futures, silver is even more extreme, but in gold futures is the total amount is, and I haven't run the numbers in the last week or so, but it's the total amount of gold futures open interest is about 8 times the amount of what's considered to be the available amount of deliverable gold on the COMEX. There's registered and eligible. And if you go to the COMEX warehouse stock spreadsheet, you'll see the eligible and the registered category. And the registered means that it's gold that has been verified as being authentic, it's been assayed, and they're true 100-ounce bars, and sellers have made them available for delivery to buyers. And I don't know that I trust the inventory numbers, but the reason why they can get away with this is that in any given delivery period, it's something like only 1% of the open interest in futures for that month actually stands for delivery. And that would primarily be, my guess, producers of jewelry and dental implants that actually have use for the gold. Mm-hmm. I can guarantee you that the hedge funds, who are the primary long side of the open interest, are not taking delivery of any gold.
Right.
So, and we actually, in our fund a couple years ago, we took delivery of some bars off the COMEX, some gold bars, and it's not an easy process. They make it by design difficult.
Right. I know that they do that with the SLV and the GLD too. You can take delivery supposedly if you own those shares, but I think the bare minimum for share ownership to try to even begin that process is somewhere around 10,000 shares or something.
100,000 share baskets.
Is it?
They're 100,000 share baskets, and it's 10 ounces. It's 10 shares per ounce of gold. So for 100,000 shares, you can get 10,000 ounces of gold. But not only that, it not only is it onerous. And I've gone through the GLD prospectus line by line. There's provisions in the prospectus that, for basically whimsical reasons, the trustee, if you're a big hedge fund and you own a big block of GLD shares, first of all, you have to go through one of the approved participants. So let's just say, for instance, JP Morgan. And you go to call up JP Morgan, you say, hey man, I got 100,000 shares of GLD, I want to turn it in and take out 10,000 ounces of gold. Well, and then JP Morgan, then J.P. Morgan tries, can go and arrange it with the trustee. But the trustee can say, well, you know what? At this moment, it's not convenient for us to deliver the gold, and so we're going to deny the request.
Yeah.
That's kind of it's a little bit of I've taken it a little bit to the extreme, but that's essentially the way the process can work. So in other words, they can deny you the ability to redeem your shares for gold if they want.
Right. If your last name isn't Rothschild or Rockefeller, if it's not Bush, you're probably not going to get the A-OK. If you're not one of these banker inside buddies, they've set it up so that they can serve each other. They can service their own banking needs, but they're not going to help. Even deep-pocketed people like Eric Sprott, I'm sure, would have a very difficult time getting physical delivery from the SLV or the GLD because of who he is, because he's not on their team. He's trying to break this cartel. He's not working on.
He's not dumb enough to own the shares because he knows it's a living and breathing Enron is what it is.
That's exactly right. That's really my point. That's absolutely right. Before we let you go, Dave, I do want to talk about the Alan Greenspan touting the benefits of gold thing, but I just do want to paint the picture for people that it's kind of a joyful experience to take physical delivery. When you get your silver shipment in the mail, Rory, I know you can speak to this. Dave, I'm sure you take your own physical deliveries on occasion. And, I just bought some silver kookaburras and some Canadian wildlife coins from SD Bullion. I only bought 30 ounces, and they came on Friday, so they just came yesterday. And I just enjoy it so much. I just don't think that there's anything else that I've ever bought in my life that when it comes in the mail, I'm as happy to open it up. And even if it's lost value, I think I'm down $1 on each ounce since I bought those a week and a half ago. I don't care. I do not care. I love it. It's great. It's pirate booty. It's the way I've always looked at it. When you take the physical stuff, in your own possession, you have pirate booty. You have real wealth. And I don't care what they're doing in this paper market. Those of us who know what's up, we understand the allegory of the Wizard of Oz and follow the yellow brick road, and we know who's behind that curtain, and his name's Rothschild, and his name's Jamie Dimon, and his name's scumbag fill in the blank. We don't care. We will take the physical, gentlemen, will we not?
Every time.
Absolutely. Man, when you hold a roll of Silver Eagles in your hand, the first thing that pops into your mind is, this is real money.
Absolutely. And you know what? I should flush this out in fairness for those who listen and say, what should I buy? Hey, I like Silver Eagles and I like the basic Canadian maples. I got plenty of those, but I have always loved the Perth Mint products. I've talked about this through a lot of videos. If you guys want to take a look back and see how real physical semi-numismatic metal holds its value, you go take a look at APMEX, take a look at the doc, take a look at anybody who sells kookaburras. You look at the 2012s, 2011s, 10s, 09s, 08s, and you look at those prices now because they're all sold out, and you're not going to find a kookaburra available for less than $35, $40, $45, $50 now. Because
how about a Chinese panda? I love the pandas.
Yep. The pandas are great too. I like the mints that cap the mintage. And the Perth Mint used to cap the mintage on those kookaburras at 300,000 coins. Now I think they're 500,000. But I'll tell you what, the Silver Eagles, they'll make 40 million of those. So they're not going to have that semi-numismatic value like some of these other Perth Mint and some of the Chinese products and some of the Canadian maple products like the Wildlife series. I really advise people to think about paying that little bit of extra premium, pay the $3, $4, $5 over spot. Sometimes you'll look back in a couple of years and you'll be really glad you did that.
On the Silver Eagles, there are some premiums on anything pre-1990, any of the 86 through 89, all of those, you're looking at $25, $30, $40 premium on top of the cost of the metal itself.
On the Silver Eagles?
Yep.
Yeah, and that may be a result of the mintage being so low back in those early years because nobody was buying physical silver. Now, of course, the world is buying physical silver. Certainly, Asia is a big part of that demand. And, we're looking at 25, 30, 40 million Silver Eagles a year where it used to be a million, used to be 2 million, used to be 500,000. So that's interesting, Rory. Thanks for that.
Yeah, it's that was one of the things that Eric and I were talking about because he wasn't aware of that either. And that comes directly from local coin dealer, and he pulls out I see him every month, and he always gets the what's called the gray book, and it has all of the market prices for all the coins, for every coin out there. And that's what he was telling me, is that 87 has those sell right now. Market value on those, when I saw them about 3 weeks ago, they were at $40 a piece.
Wow.
That's what they sell for. And then there's a couple of years that I think the 94 is at like $60 a coin. Now, I don't know if anybody's going to actually pay that, but that's what the book says that they're worth.
Well, it's
So,
legit. I mean, look at eBay, look at the selling prices, look at the completed transactions on eBay, and also look at the APMEX buy price. They will buy some of your coins back from you because they don't have any. So they'll buy them
correct.
back at 35 and sell them to the next guy at 40. But I think this is a great segue to end the conversation and ask Dave about his opinion about Greenspan's stunning admission that, quote, gold is currency, no fiat currency, including the dollar, can match it, end quote. He said that in front of the Council on Foreign Relations, David Rockefeller's, CFR that is, and I've spoken at length with Bix Weir about this. It's a bit of a sea change. A lot of people didn't see it coming, but I think it's very symbolic that they rolled out Alan Greenspan, the most famous central banker, to talk about the merits of gold at the CFR. I think it's very symbolic. Dave, what do you make of it?
Well, let me point out first of all that and I'm sourcing this information from Zero Hedge, but the transcript that was released for public consumption had a couple things cut out that he had said. And the one thing that was the most incredible was he basically said gold is currency. No fiat currency, including the dollar, can match it. Now, I'd just like to say that it actually doesn't surprise me that he's now coming out and saying these things, because I basically told people who, colleagues of mine 10 years ago, 2004, I said we're gonna see the day, and I think that was when we kind of knew Bernanke was going to be replacing Greenspan at the Fed, and Greenspan would be stepping down. And I said, don't be surprised if at some point before he dies, he tries to rewrite his legacy. And I think that's what we're seeing right now, because if you study the history of Greenspan, he's the most important thing to him is to be perceived as being the smartest guy in the room. And he knows where everything is headed. And I think he's trying to rewrite his legacy as being the maestro of fiat currency into, hey, buy gold, because then right before he dies, he can say, hey, I warned everyone, gold is the only real currency. And he's come full circle to where he was in 1966 when he wrote Golden Economic Freedom, where there's no better essay or explanation out there in the world that explains why gold is the ultimate currency than Golden Economic Freedom. And for anyone who hasn't read it, I would urge you to just Google Greenspan Golden Economic Freedom and read the whole essay. It's not that long, and I think your jaw will drop.
Yeah, 100% agree with you, and I just want to mention Bix Weir's work at Road to Ruta, because as crazy as it sounds, he's been predicting this all along, that Greenspan, in his mind, is one of the good guys. I don't agree with that. I think Greenspan's as likely a Satanist as anything, but
he's a chameleon. Greenspan's a chameleon.
Except for, Dave, I think that there is some merit to what Bix is saying because of the bankster deaths, the bankster wet work we've seen. If Greenspan was not authorized to come out and say these things, I don't think he could get away with it. And he certainly wouldn't be invited to the CFR to say it publicly, which is why I think this is so symbolic. I think it marks some sort of sea change, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but I think it's the elite, I think it's the controllers, it's the powers that be saying, yeah, gold's money. We know it, the world knows it, China knows it, and now we need to figure out a way to bridge back to it without absolutely decimating the dollar. I could be wrong on that, but I can't believe you could say these things without being authorized to say them.
Well, who knows? I mean, he's been for the last several months, he's been coming out and kind of cryptically saying things like this. And what's interesting, and again, I haven't gone back and looked at every single testimony of his in front of Congress where Ron Paul interrogates him, but I don't think there's any public video or any instance where Greenspan said that gold is not money. I don't think he ever let himself get caught in that trap. Obviously, Bernanke was asked point blank, is gold money? And by Ron Paul, and Bernanke said, with his sort of squirrelish eyes, and you could see it was an uncomfortable question for him. He said no. It was even more uncomfortable for him to answer it that way.
Yeah, he said it's a tradition.
Right, because then Ron Paul followed up, well, then why do central banks hold gold if it's not money? Well, I guess out of tradition, Okay, right. They're holding billions and billions of dollars worth of gold, at least in the Fed's case, supposedly, out of tradition, right.
Well, I'd like to read this. This is directly from that speech that Alan Greenspan delivered at the Council on Foreign Relations, and this comes from the video that Coos Jansen released yesterday. And he says point blank, and this is a direct quote, intrinsic currencies like gold and silver are acceptable without a third-party guarantee. And then he goes on to say, why did central banks put money into an asset which has no rate of return but cost of storage and insurance and everything else like that? Why are they doing that? If you look at the data, with very few exceptions, all of the developed countries have gold reserves. Why? And that's where that...
Whoa.
Is there a monster in the room?
That was my 15-year-old Weimaraner.
Oh, funny.
Sorry about that.
But I just find it very interesting that not only does he talk about gold being a currency, but I find it more important that he refers to silver as a currency as well. He is the only person that is at the level that he is, as far as within government or the officialdom or whatever, the criminal cabal that I can remember using silver or talking about silver, first of all, at all, and much less saying that it is a currency. And I just find that to be very telling. And what kind of message who is the message going to, and what is the message that he's trying to send is what I would like to know.
No, that is very interesting.
I got two
catch, Roy.
2 points to make about that. The first one is I didn't realize that he had also referenced silver as being a currency, but that would make one of those great Geico commercials, 15 minutes, it can save me 15%. Everybody knows that. Well, did you know that Greenspan said silver is currency? That'd be a great Geico ad. Of course, I'll never show it. Getting back to why he may have been authorized to make a statement like that, to me, and again, my video co-producer John Titus pointed this out to me, and he pointed out that one of the rules by which the elite aristocrats abide is they consider it rude to not issue a warning before they do something bad to us.
Right.
And he says they're like criminals with manners. In other words, it's gauche to flush the toilet while the serfs are in the shower without giving them a heads up. And I think that's probably, he's obviously speaking directly to the people who are in the audience who are CFR members. But I think the reason why they would let that into the public domain is, hey, we warned you, Greenspan, former Fed head right there said you need to have gold.
I think that's extremely astute. I think that is an excellent point because it is a revelation of the means. It's this idea that we are going to hurt you, but we're going to put it out in white papers and tell you how and why we're going to hurt you. We are going to implement population control through our vaccines. Here's how we're going to do it, and here's why we're doing it. If you're too stupid or too lazy to read the documents, that's on you. We warned you. And I think that's very astute observation, Dave, because for him to go in front of the CFR, which is this core group of insiders, including some of the top people at CNBC like Aaron Burnett and, of course, Brian Williams over at NBC, to speak of just two mockingbirds. But yes, to make this statement at the CFR and to even put it out publicly on the YouTube channel, which we covered at SGT Report and shared the link, how many people are going to watch that? How many people out of this population of 315 million people in this country are going to listen to that message? The tiniest fraction of a percent. So I think you're absolutely right. I think that's a very astute observation. And what he may be saying is, get ready. The storm is coming. Your dollar will die. you better get some precious metals in physical form because it's the only thing that truly is money, and you're hearing it from the most famous central banker. Dave, you do so much great work over there. Can you tell us about your website?
Sure, Investment Research Dynamics, and it used to be the Golden Truth, and I transitioned it into Investment Research Dynamics because I also wanted to start offering some very in-depth and unique stock reports on both mining stocks and the home builder sector, which to me is a huge short right now. It's probably the best short out there, better than tech even as a short. And my research reports are way more in depth and way more sophisticated than anything you'll find from Wall Street or any website out there where you can get some information for free. I go into accounting in depth. I go into valuation analysis, etc. And I have a lot of repeat buyers of everything I publish. So to me, that's kind of the endorsement for me. And then I also try to lay out the state of affairs going on in the markets and occasionally in politics as I see it. And I'm just trying to put what I think is the truth into print because we can't get the truth from any of our media sources in this country.
No, we sure can't. That's why the mainstream media is truly dying. I think CNN viewership is at an all-time low. Certainly it's at a 20-year low. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for the candid chat today. I think everybody probably enjoyed this. I know I did. And Rory, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us as well.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, anytime, my friend. And guys, you can check out Dave Kranzler's offerings and all his great writing over at investmentresearchdynamics.com. Dave, thanks so much, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure. You guys are the best.
Oh, back at you, man. And everybody who's tuning in and listening, you're the best. We wouldn't do this if it weren't for you, because it's our hope that you will share this information with those you love, friends, family, and colleagues, the sheeple who aren't otherwise paying attention. Thanks for all you do in sharing the information with others. I think time's running out. Thanks for visiting us over at sgtreport.com and thelibertymill.com. We very much appreciate it, and we value your comments if you want to join in the conversation at SGT Report. Have a terrific week, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, you too, Sean.